In at number 10, we have Darkseid. Darkseid has always had a whole lot of power. First introduced in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen issue 134 in 1970, and later properly introduced in 1971's Forever People issue 1, the first was a cameo, Darkseid is the tyrannical leader of the planet Apokolips. His goal is to conquer the universe and eliminate all free will and reshape the universe into his own image. Yeah, pretty darn evil. It doesn't help that at his base level he's one of the strongest beings in the DC universe. So when he became even stronger in the 2005 Mr. Miracle series after attaining the anti-life equation, an equation that allows its user to completely control the thoughts and emotions of all living beings in the universe, yikes, you can imagine how freaked out many superheroes were about it. He used it to destroy the Fourth World, and during Final Crisis he began to take over Earth and corrupt the multiverse. Luckily, Batman sacrificed himself to fatally wound Darkseid, and the Justice League managed to finish him off. Moving on to number 9, Onslaught. Onslaught may be part of a less than favorable story event that typically gets criticized by fans, but the amount of power this character has is absolutely undeniable. Onslaught is the darkest parts of Charles Xavier's subconscious merged with the darkest parts of Magneto's mind, coming together to create a separate persona who has complete psychic omnipotence. This was a product of a battle between the X-Men and Magneto's acolytes, with Xavier using his telepathic abilities to shut down Magneto's mind and render him catatonic. Because of that, those two dark aspects of both men merged and Onslaught was born. He would terrorize the entire Marvel 616 universe, with the Avengers and the Fantastic Four having to sacrifice themselves in order to put an end to him. Although they were resurrected thanks to Franklin Richards, who made sure they were reborn in a pocket universe he created. That's a whole other can of worms for another video. And at number 8, Granny Goodness. Aside from some excellent alliteration that makes it sound like this character deserves to be on the Golden Girls, Granny Goodness, who first appeared in 1971's Mr. Miracle Volume 1 Issue 2, was not always a new god. She began her life as a lowly, which is the term for the brutally oppressed impoverished class of people on the planet of Apokolips. Once she was young, she was taken away from her parents and forced to train as one of Darkseid's hounds, a group of elite soldiers. Now she impressed Darkseid so much during this time that he had her run the training facility for his soldiers, utilizing techniques like brainwashing and torture in what can only be deemed as a brutal parody of childcare. She often runs orphanages for Darkseid as well. After completing her training, she became a new god, now endowed with immortality, superhuman physical attributes, along with becoming a skilled warrior, leader, and tactician. She also wields a mega rod and a bunch of advanced technology. And, fun fact, Jack Kirby, her creator, modeled her after Phyllis Diller. And at number 7, Thane. Thane was not always a supervillain. He just had the unfortunate luck of being Thanos' son. We know how well being one of Thanos' kids turned out for Gamora. During Thanos' galactic conquest, the Mad Titan fathered many children. During the 2013 Infinity story arc, Thanos decides to invade Earth after learning that most of the Avengers are off planet. Now at the time, he targets the home of the Inhumans, saying that he'll spare the rest of the Inhumans in exchange for the deaths of all Inhumans between the age of 16 and 22. Now the real intention of this invasion was to locate his lost son, Thane, and kill him. Now Thane just thinks he's a regular old dude until the Terrigen Mists are released and his dormant powers awaken. Powers strong enough to one day give his papa a run for his money. That's why Thanos wants the kid killed off. But one of Thanos' Black Order, Ebony Maw, betrays him and ends up finding Thane first, turning him against his father, which results in the eternal Inhuman hybrid trapping his daddy dearest in a pocket limbo stasis. And at number 6, Lex Luthor. For a mortal man, Lex Luthor has more than proved himself capable of going up against some of the strongest individuals kicking around the DC universe. His genius-level intellect has allowed for him to rule over Metropolis, so to speak, with only the Dark Knight's Wayne Industries being the only true competitor for how far and wide LexCorp's reaches. Now, during the Darkseid War, a lot of characters in the DC universe got to dabble in being a deity, and Lex was one of them. In Justice League Volume 2 Issue 45, Lex benefits from another DC big bad dying. Darkseid bites the dust, and his Omega effect ends up being contained inside of Lex, which turns the bald bad guy into the god of Apokolips, getting to choose whether he would free Apokolips from tyranny or become a tyrant himself. And at number 5, the Magus. Adam Warlock may seem like one of the most noble heroes out there in the Marvel universe, and sure, he kind of is, but the character actually has an evil half named the Magus. Over the years, we've seen 3 incarnations of this evil dude. The first was an older god-like Magus from a potential future timeline that Adam encountered, who was the leader of a religious empire known as the Universal Church of Truth. Long story short, Church of Truth was not a good church or religion. It was pretty bad. and evil. This Magus was a tyrant, and in order to prevent him from existing, Warlock actually works with his foe Thanos in order to ensure that this Magus timeline is erased. But that was not the end of the Magus. After Warlock had acquired the Infinity Gauntlet, his soul expelled two halves, one good, one evil, and accidentally gives those halves corporeal forms. And guess what? The evil half names himself the Magus, and then tries to get the gauntlet for himself. Warlock then would become Magus later on after repairing damage to the space-time continuum and ended up dying. But the Magus is resurrected as a child later, and also Warlock is resurrected, because death in comics doesn't really exist. Up next at 4, Molecule Man. Molecule Man Owen Reese first debuted in Fantastic Four issue 20 in 1963, but it wasn't until the character's later years in the comics that his full range of power would become apparent to others in the superhero and villain community. Capable of reality warping and molecular manipulation on a multiversal level, Molecule Man, previously a villain and sometimes a reluctant hero, is very powerful, and nothing like his involvement in the 2015 Secret Wars event goes to show that better. During that series, he began to overcome the subconsciously imposed mental blocks he had placed on himself to prevent him from affecting organic molecules. He would extract the Beyonder from Cosmos and battle him over 3 spatial dimensions, which threatened to cause a multi-universal scale of destruction. Fun! According to Dr. Doom and Reed Richards, he is a multiversal composite entity, a single creature that manifests fractions of its entire being in each universe within the Marvel multiverse. Plus, he was also created by the Beyonders to serve as a living bomb. He will destroy the universe that he's living in if he dies, so that is also fun. So much power, but so much death. Moving on to number 3, we have the Joker. Here we have an occasion where the Joker became a god, and it wasn't even in a Batman story. In Superman issue 160, the Joker ends up tricking Mr. Mxyzptlk into giving him 99.9% of his reality-altering abilities. Now when this happens, the Joker becomes practically omnipotent. And what does a borderline Joker god do? Well, for starters, he calls himself Emperor Joker. Then he shapes the world into one of his own image, which means it is a batshit crazy hell on earth. This all goes down within 69 seconds of the Joker having this power. He entertains himself by killing Lex Luthor over and over again, and then he ate the entire population of China just for shits and giggles. As one does. And what about Batman? Well, he tortured him daily only to bring him back to life and do it all over again every single day, taking extra pride in these killings thanks to their very messed up relationship with one another. Luckily, Superman manages to evade the Joker for a bit, reaches out to the weakened Mxyzptlk and the Spectre, and they all realize that the Joker's weakness, even after getting all this power, is still Batman. They use that bond against him to depower him, and everything is back to normal. And I guess all of China was regurgitated. And at number 2, Dr. Doom. Doom has become a god twice over the years, and both times were during the Secret Wars story events. Now the first Secret Wars, which took place in 1984 and 1985, was a 12-issue crossover limited series in which the cosmic entity known as the Beyonder teleports heroes and villains from the Marvel Universe to a place he created called Battleworld, where they're meant to duke it out in a contest that became a beloved story arc ever since, and was also a brilliant way to sell a bunch of toys, if we're being honest. Now during all of this, Dr. Doom managed to harness the power cosmic, gaining godlike power in an attempt to defeat the Beyonder. The sequel, which occurred almost a year after the original, would explain how Doom was alive in the current timeline. Then, let's flash forward to 2015, another Secret Wars was created, which positioned Doom as a survivor of a cataclysmic event in the multiverse, and he became God Emperor Doom, fully omnipotent. He had built his own battle world and used Molecule Man to empower himself. And last but not least, in at number 1, Thanos. Thanos didn't want to become a god for the sake of being a god. He wanted to become a god in order to prove himself worthy to his one true love, Lady Death, the entity and physical manifestation of death itself. After Thanos had successfully acquired all of the Infinity Gems and had placed them into the Gauntlet, the Mad Titan spent some of the very first panels of the Infinity Gauntlet comic story by literally creating a giant rock structure in space that spells out the word God in capital letters. Not even making this up. Meanwhile, Mephisto, who's like, yeah, I'm gonna side with him and not get dead and try to take advantage of his obvious insecurities, is tooting Thanos' horn by telling him he's in awe of being in Thanos' divine presence. And then, after building himself a very bougie base in space, Thanos commits the ultimate abuse of power. He snaps his fingers, wiping out half of all living beings in the entire universe, all to show Death just how much he loves her. Still, she rejects him, even after he manages to slaughter all of the remaining heroes and cosmic entities who join up with Adam Warlock to take him on. Ouch. In the end, it's his own self-doubt, insecurities, and his misjudgment of Nebula that bring his reign of terror to an end. And his goddom. Even though he's still pretty powerful.
Number 10. Wonder Woman, Diana Prince, the daughter of Zeus. Okay, so before I start, I just want to say that Wonder Woman is not always overpowered. Sometimes she's way too depowered, but usually she's right perfect where she needs to be. But there are some instances where they make her way too powerful, just kind of like any other hero. Usually Wonder Woman isn't bulletproof, and that's why she blocks away bullets with her gauntlets. But there are times where they have made her completely bulletproof, or insanely fast, like almost speedster level fast, where she can move faster than speeding bullets, which is a bit crazy. Wonder Woman is one of the most powerful and coolest DC heroes, and this happens with every character, sometimes writers make heroes, or in this case gods, just way too powerful. Number 9, Morpheus. Morpheus, also known as the God of Dreams. For the most part, he kind of just does his own thing, and hasn't really shown up a ton in the main DC continuity, but he has gradually shown up more and more over the years. He is very powerful, and he lives in a world of dreams, where he can essentially do whatever he chooses, because the dream world is his domain. So if someone were to fight him there, they would most likely not fare so well. For the most part, he's considered a good guy, but a better description would probably be anti-hero, since he does kind of just show his bad side every once in a while. Number 8, Trigon. Good old Trigon. If you're a fan of Teen Titans, then you are well aware of who this guy is. He's the father of one of the founding members of the Teen Titans, Raven. Trigon is a villain that just seems to always come back, and that's probably because he is so freaking powerful. He can travel through dimensions, fly, has super strength, invulnerability, molecular reconstruction, mind control, telekinesis, telepathy, and pyrokinesis. I mean, the guy is stacked with powers. Maybe even has too many. It's a miracle that the Titans have been able to take him down at all. And he is so obsessed with making his daughter join him on the dark side. But luckily, he hasn't been fully successful on that dream yet. Number 7, Rao. Rao is not a god that all humans would know. Some do, but not all. That's because he's not one of Earth's gods. He is one of Krypton's. If you're wondering why that name sounds familiar, it's also because that is what the red sun of Krypton is named after. Also, Rao has been brought up multiple times over the years in the TV show Supergirl. I mean, in the show, humans even started their own church to worship him, because over time, humans began to learn more about him thanks to Superman and Supergirl. Usually that was only strictly on Supergirl's Earth 38, but after Crisis and the Earth merged, now there have actually been some very subtle references on the Flash that humans on now the main Earth know who Rao is, which is also just a really cool touch. But Rao is very powerful, and also kind of crazy. I mean, there are different stories about him, some still in continuity, some not. I mean, that is the comic book world for you. But at one point, he tried to become immortal and started taking life from people who followed him. It's also been stated that he created Krypton, but other stories have said otherwise. Number 6, Athena. Athena is one of the Olympians. She is the goddess of wisdom and defensive war. Her powers include deaccelerated aging. Basically, she doesn't age at the same rate as humans. She also has super strength, stamina, telepathy, invulnerability, and magic. Not only does that make her insanely powerful already, but she also has other abilities like weaponry and martial arts, which makes her extremely deadly if you were to face off with her in the battlefield. Similar to the other Olympians, in some iterations, the Olympians only hold on to these powers as long as people still worship them. Number 5, Zeus. Zeus has the power of lightning. That's not a shocker. No pun intended. Okay, actually no, that was totally intended. But this power is super strong and allows him, in a sense, to control the weather. In some variations of the comics, he needs people to worship him, like I stated earlier, to gain or hold how powerful he actually is. If people stop, then Zeus, his power would fade over time. Zeus can not only control the weather, but he can also resurrect people from the dead. He also has the ability to shapeshift and create life. Yes, he is the father of Wonder Woman, so that fits. Number 4, Ares. Ares, yet another Olympian on this list. He is the god of war. So, this guy doesn't want peace. Right off the bat, it tells you that. His powers include teleportation, darkness manipulation, dimensional travel, magic, size alteration, super speed and super strength, telepathy, and mind control. Yeah, he has quite a few. Probably a little bit too much, but he also has great skills that include weaponry and martial arts. And if you're thinking, I wonder why he looks so familiar or sounds familiar, well, you're not wrong. If you saw the 2017 film Wonder Woman, he was the main villain of that movie, and he fought Wonder Woman at the end of the film. Although he was unsuccessful, he still proved himself to be a formidable foe. And surprisingly, once he turned into his true form, he looked pretty comics accurate. Number 3, Lucifer. So, Lucifer is a fallen angel who basically led a rebellion against the presence, and well, he lost. He's quite powerful, and can shape matter, energy, and time. He has the ability of super strength, acidic blood, he can fly, let out a sonic cry, speak to animals, and even telepathy. Yeah, this guy is loaded with powers. However, in the New 52 reboot, they sort of made Lucifer a little less overpowered, relying more on his armies rather than his powers itself. But nonetheless, he's still pretty freaking powerful. At number 2, we have Darkseid. Darkseid is one of the biggest foes in the DC universe. He has got up against the Justice League, like, that right away tells you how strong he is. He's not only powerful with his fists, but powerful with his Omega beams that shoot straight out from his eyeballs. The cool thing with these Omega beams is that he can control them in any direction. Yeah, not even Superman can do that with his heat vision. These beams are not only incredibly deadly, so if you get hit by one, you're most likely screwed, but they are also incredibly fast. And in the past, have even been known to catch up to certain speedsters, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Number 1, the Presence. Yeah, this is not really a shocker. So if you don't know, the Presence is basically DC's versions of God, like the main god. The Presence is insanely powerful. Some say the most powerful thing in the entire DC universe. It can do anything. I mean, its powers are limitless. It gave the Spectre his powers, which, as you know, the Spectre is considered to be one of the most powerful beings as well. So, I mean, that makes sense once you realize where his powers actually came from. Similar to Spectre, if the Presence takes a human form, the human can die, but the Presence will live on. It can grant powers, resurrect anyone it chooses, and keep going into any host it chooses. If there was a DC, like kind of totem pole of the most powerful to the least, the Presence sits alone at the very, very top.
Number 10, Harley Quinn. There was a time when Harley Quinn in the comics ended up being recruited by Granny Goodness of Apocalypse. She would end up going with her to Apocalypse and even end up being convinced by her to join her team of female Furies, who are effectively new gods. This only ended up being a thing for a few issues, but gave Harley a pretty rad new look and a hammer. During her time as a Fury, she took up the name Hammer Harleen. Because the female Furies are considered new gods, this technically made Harley Quinn a god, temporarily. The whole reason that she ended up joining in the comics was because she was on vacation and looking to take a break from her life, a bit of an escapism if you will, which this new cosmic role provided in spades. I mean, it's a pretty cool vacation if you get to just be a female Fury for a little while, right? However, eventually it was time for Harley to return to her life, and so she had to fight her way off the team in the end, because, you know, people don't really leave the female Furies peacefully. Also, I'm pretty sure she was not a great female Fury. We also see her time as a female Fury hinted at in season 2 of the Harley Quinn animated series. Number 9, Blackheart. Blackheart is the son of Mephisto, who would eventually seek to overthrow his father and become a ruler of a portion of hell. Just a portion. Not only was he basically born into godhood, but he also worked hard to earn it for himself, or he at least worked hard to employ other people to help him in earning it for himself. So, didn't really earn it for himself, I guess. Mephisto created Blackheart out of all the evil energy gathered from centuries of misdeeds committed on a hill in New York called Christ's Crown. Blackheart would eventually build a town around Christ's Crown that he would rule, but after being defeated by Wolverine, the Punisher, and Ghost Rider, he would recruit them to help him overthrow his father. Also, Wolverine, the Punisher, and Ghost Rider is like a pretty OP like gang of heroes, I think. Number 8, Korvac. Michael Korvac was a villain from the future who sought more power and influence, traveling back in time and becoming godlike in terms of his power levels when he managed to take on some of the power cosmic. Pretty sweet. His newly founded powers and the way he used them eventually attracted the attention of the Avengers, who he managed to defeat with the help of his romantic partner, Karina Tivan, daughter of the Collector, a name that was actually also given to the Collector's servant in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She was named Karina, though I imagine she was not meant to be a stand-in for his daughter, so if you saw her and you were like, is that his daughter? Probably not. She was the one that got all like explodey when she touched the Infinity Gem. Not a good look. However, in the comics, in the end, Karina came to lose faith in Korvac, and it was because of this that he decided to take his own life and undo what he had done, using his powers to bring back the fallen Avengers. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, if you are loving it as much as I am loving it, be sure to show us some love by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 7, Savitar. Savitar's name literally means god of motion in Hindu, so it's no surprise that this villain is considered a god to some. He basically became a speed god, even going so far as to create a kind of religion, or at the very least I think we can call it a cult, surrounding him. He gathered followers and became known as their leader. Even in his absence, his cult, known as the Thunderbolt Agents at the
time flourished and grew, even without him. That's how powerful Savitar's beliefs are. Or believing in Savitar is, I guess. Savitar is also known for being an enemy of the Flash, and in the CW verse is literally the evil version of Barry Allen from an alternate timeline. But in the comics, not so much. In the comics, I think we still don't know who he is, actually. And I feel like that's been a thing forever, and is still a thing now, even in Prime Earth continuity. Who is Savitar? We don't know. Number 6. Apocalypse. Apocalypse became a god very briefly during the Otherworld tournament of Ten of Swords. Of course, some may see him as a godlike being all the time, but at this moment he truly was a god, just as his wife had been before him. Though here, Apocalypse was also able to show his strength and resilient will off, separate from the godlike power that he attained. Near the end of the tournament, an all-out war broke out when Apocalypse, after winning the battle against Genesis, refused to kill her. Annihilation took over Genesis, causing a war between all involved, including the Amenthi demons. However, Apocalypse would manage to wrench free the golden mask of annihilation from Genesis, sundering their connection. As such, the mask would then possess him, but Apocalypse's will was strong, and he was able to resist the temptation of its power. He simply used it to make the Amenthi stand down, causing a ceasefire basically. Saturnine would then remove the mask from Apocalypse and turn it into a staff, ba-boom, with her magics, making it much less of an influential artifact from there on out. I feel like you know you're powerful if you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna wear a mask that turns me into a god and be able to be like, I don't really want to be influenced by you, so I'm just not gonna do that. Like, that's power. Number 5. Thanos. Thanos has been godlike many times, including the Infinity Gauntlet story, but he also basically became a god in an alternate future where he had succeeded in wiping out almost all life in the universe. In the Thanos Wins story arc, only a few opponents were left standing there, including himself. He had killed everyone in order to be with death, and had his herald, Cosmic Ghost Rider, go to retrieve his past self to help him with one final task: to take out the great and older version of Thanos himself, King Thanos, if you will. This would thereby allow him to be with death, but the older version of Thanos himself needed help to do the deed. He was like, I can't take my own life. I need some help here. Help me out. However, younger Thanos was over his love of death at the time and saw this older version as being weak for asking for help, despite the fact that he was so successful and terrifying in his own reality. Also, Thanos, I feel like asking for help does not make you weak. That's just my opinion, but hey. Younger Thanos decided to leave his older self alone, returning to his own reality and refusing to become him, thereby denying this older King Thanos' very existence. So, he was a god, but now he's gone. Bye! Number 4. Joker. There was a time in the comics when the Joker ended up getting 99.9% of Mr. Mixie's Pitalic's power. Mr. Mixie had only intended to give him 0.01%, but was tricked into doing just the opposite, because ain't that just how it goes. With this level of power, Joker ruled as a god. He did all sorts of wacky and awful things. He ate all of China, put Superman in an insane asylum, and tormented and tortured Batman daily, killing him on repeat, but basically always bringing him back to life. He was defeated though, and lost his power when it was acknowledged that without Batman, the Joker was nothing, and he simply couldn't exist without the hero, which was why he had never killed him permanently with his newfound power. This weakness ended up being his downfall. Number 3. Gore the God Butcher. Gore the God Butcher reveals himself to have become a god through permanently bonding and integrating with the All Black on the alternate Earth of 14412, a future where Thor becomes King Thor. So many kings on my list. Gore, in transferring his own consciousness into the Necrosword and thereby bonding permanently with the All Black, has become an eternal being incapable of dying. Gore had basically become one with the universe. He would still end up being subdued, but it would require him unleashing the god Tempest from within Mjolnir to do so. And even then, this version of him wasn't technically dead, just rendered powerless and pretty permanently incapacitated. But still, I don't think he killed him there. Number 2. Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy was, I suppose, more of a ruler than a god, but she definitely appeared godlike in terms of her powers during the Everyone Loves Ivy arc of Tom King's Batman. She also did a pretty good job, I think, of controlling everything, which is why I put her so high up on my list. Also, I just like Poison Ivy, so come at me. You don't like Poison Ivy? Let's fight in the comments. No, I'm kidding. Let's not fight. Let's just love each other and love our differences. In this story, Ivy finds a way to control the world's population through the greens that they consume. Only a few manage to evade her influence, but overall the world seems to be even better with Ivy ruling it, to be honest. However, taking away people's free will in exchange for turning them into a happy collective, is pretty frowned upon by the heroes who do remain. Batman finds a way to free Harley Quinn from Poison Ivy's influence, hoping that she might be able to resolve this issue more peacefully, or just, resolve it at all, as both Batman and Catwoman are a bit at a loss as to what to do, considering how powerful Ivy is at this point. Harley manages to talk Pamela down, and in the end, Poison Ivy gives up her control willingly. But also, how cool would it be if Ivy just continued to rule the world, and that was DC now, and that was just how it went forever? I personally would read that comic book. I think it'd be great. Number 1. Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom ended up becoming a god during the recreation of Battleworld. When the incursions happened, he was the one to stand up and take on the power of Molecule Man in order to try and save the multiverse. He wasn't a great god in this new world, but hey, he did his best, stitching together all the alternate worlds with the Earth of 616 to save each in creating a patchwork-like interconnected reality where each alternate Earth basically became like a province or a territory in this new battle world, which God Emperor Doom himself ruled over. In the end, Doom was convinced to give up his power in order to make things right, and turn the universe back into something similar to what it had been previously. He would pass on Molecule Man's power to Reed Richards, who in turn would alter reality so that Doom's face would be healed again, and so that Doom would believe the Fantastic Four were no more, which allowed him to finally be happy, ending the story with a big Dr. Doom smile. How lovely.
Number 10. Dormammu. Known as the Lord of the Dark Dimension, Dormammu was born thousands to millions of years ago in the dimension of the vastly powerful energy entities called the Faltine. Dormammu and his sibling Umar gathered matter to themselves to increase their power, a practice to their fellow Faltine, becoming their dimension's mightiest sorcerers. Ultimately slaying their parent Cinnafer, they were driven from their home dimension, and the Faltine deemed their gathering of such energy intolerable, so they assumed some human forms to explore others. Now you know Dormammu is strong because Odin himself considers him to be equal in strength and power, which he mentions in the Avengers Defenders War event. He has also been known to corrupt Odin's spells against his will, meaning that the sheer magical might that Dormammu wields is potentially equal to beings like Agamotto. His sorcery over the flames of Faltine also demonstrates his raw power, which he used to burn the Celestials even one time. His power is also strengthened and replenished from beings worshipping him throughout the various dimensions. In his dimension, he can banish anyone that enters if he so chooses, but he usually likes to fight them instead. He is a constant threat to the Vishanti and the universe as an entire whole, so check out his whole story in his first appearance in 1964's Strange Tales number 126. Number 9. Trigon. Now if you're like me, then your first introduction to Trigon was through the Teen Titans show that aired in 2003 all the way to 2006. But trust me when I say that there is more to the character than what the show, showed. Trigon came into existence thousands of years ago when a group of humans abandoned life on Earth and then established a group of pacifists in the interdimensional world of Azarath. Embracing the concept of peace, these humans exorcised the dark passions of their souls from their bodies and cast it beyond the Great Door of Azarath into the Netherrealm. And then this leftover evil energy floated into space for years before finally coalescing into a single physical form. The last inhabitants of an alien world summoned this darkness from the ether and it impregnated a woman from the Order. And then 9 months later, Trigon was born. Very early on, Trigon showed just how evil he was as he killed every single member of that pacifist group, including his own mother, and then within a year he had conquered that entire planet. Now, Trigon is rarely shown at full power, but from what we've seen, thanks to his demon physiology, he is capable of Eldritch Blast, size alteration, reality-altering magic, illusion magic, and transformation. Definitely check him out for yourself if you've got the time, starting with his first appearance in 1981's New Teen Titans number 4. Number 8. Darkseid. One of the eldest and first new gods, Darkseid is the tyrannical ruler of the world Apocalypse. As a new god, he is a conceptual being that exists outside the normal universe in a realm called the Fourth World. Darkseid has also been called the god of evil, and while there are a few in the multiverse that could surpass him in his monstrousness, Darkseid is probably more accurately known as the god of tyranny. Darkseid's ultimate goal is to rule the universe and eliminate free will entirely. In his never-ending quest to possess the dreaded anti-life equation, there are few lengths that the new god won't go to in order to make his dream a reality. He's conquered a countless number of universes, as few can actually stand up to his powers. You know, he's armed with super strength, telekinesis, immortality, energy and mass manipulation, his omega powers, and a seemingly countless number of others. Honestly, there's little he can't do. Whenever Darkseid arrives on the scene, it's typically an all hands on deck scenario. Only beings with Superman level power and above are able to hold their own against the new god. Even though he and Highfather are equal in strength, Darkseid is far more vicious and deadly out of the two, and that's why he is on this list today. Check out his story starting with his first appearance in 1970's Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 134. Number 7. Morpheus. Also known as Sandman or Dream, Morpheus is the lord of all that is not real, meaning dreams and stories. He came into existence once the first life forms were capable of complex thought and began dreaming, and that's when he became one of the Endless, the children of time, personifications of ideas and concepts that were tied to life, and were fated to fulfill their functions until the universe ended and all life disappeared from the cosmos. As the personification of dreams, he possesses absolute control over sleep, dreams, nightmares, and even insomnia, and this has granted him other powers such as, but not limited to, cosmic awareness, energy absorption, metamorphosis, telekinesis, and of course, the standard superhuman strength, stamina, and reflexes. Now interestingly enough, despite being immortal, Morpheus was able to die, and actually did at one point, which caused a reality storm that rippled across time and space. Gods like Darkseid may pose a universal threat, but Morpheus existed in any and all dimensions in which there are dreams, and that makes his reach so much further and just a little bit more terrifying. Check out Morpheus for yourself, starting all the way back in 1989 Sandman Volume 2, number 1. Number 6. Chaos King. Amatsu Mikabashi is none other than the Chaos King, the god of evil, chaos, and the stars to the followers of the Shinto religion in Japan. He possessed the conventional abilities of one of the kami, the order of Japanese deities, such as superhuman strength, speed, durability, agility, endurance, and recuperative abilities, as well as high ability to wield some form of potent Japanese dark magic, a brand of sorcery that seems especially effective against the Olympian deities. His physical strength, at least in his main incarnation, is considerably lesser to that of Zeus or Izanagi per se, and is roughly equal to that of the average kami, but Mikabashi can project energy on a scale at least rivaling that of Zeus and Izanagi. Like the Asgardians, the Japanese gods are extremely long-lived but not truly immortal like the Olympians, as they tend to age at an extremely slow rate upon reaching adulthood and are 3 times denser than normal human beings. During the events of the Chaos War, we catch a glimpse of Chaos King teamed up with Necra and none other than the Grim Reaper and Abomination to fight against the other gods. He even goes as far as unleashing Carrion Crow, Eater of the Dead, to antagonize the revived X-Men members. Now all in all, he is brutal in terms of methods and isn't really too easy on the eyes, so check him out for yourself, starting with 2006 Thor, Blood Oath number 6. Number 5. The Darkest Night. Now before anyone calls me out on this, I want to make it clear why he is so low on this list today. It's because this literally just happened in the comics, so there's like no information on him, so it's kind of tough to decide where he should be on the list. Now that being said though, he still deserves to be talked about today. Now formerly known as the Batman Who Laughs, Earth -22's Bruce Wayne is a bit more evil than the others. After snapping Joker's neck, a mysterious gas entered his body and caused his mind and body to transform into an insane Batman-Joker hybrid. Now that's basically all you really need to know for this instance, so let's talk about how he turned into the Darkest Night. So it's revealed in Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 2 that the Batman Who Laughs has been in possession of the body of a mysterious blue Bruce Wayne, and that he had a plan revolving around him. After his death at the hands of Wonder Woman, this plan goes underway as Alfred takes the brain of the evil Batman and places it inside the body of the blue Bruce, who is revealed to be a Batman Dr. Manhattan hybrid that I call Batmanhattan. Before long, the Batman Who Laughs wakes up in his new body, now more powerful than ever, as he possesses all of the powers of Dr. Manhattan, the intellect of Batman, and the insanity of the Joker. Without hesitation, he pulverizes all of his followers except for the Robin King, but he doesn't stop quite there. The Batman Who Laughs has no interest in being the pure blue-like character. Instead, he alters his shape yet again to become a monstrous creature of shadow. Put simply, this is the most powerful Batman we've ever seen to date, and I personally can't wait to see what's to come. Check out the lead up to this reveal starting with 2020's Dark Knight's Death Metal number 1. Number 4. Thor. The god of thunder, Thor Odinson, is easily one of the strongest beings in the Marvel Universe. When Odin and Gaia, the goddess of earth, came together, the two immortal beings had, well, Thor, designing him to be the strongest of all the other gods in Asgard. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but Thor is, well, ridiculously strong, with Superman-level strength, invulnerability, a kinship with the elements themselves, and boasted the ability to wield the mighty mystical hammer Mjolnir. Capable of destroying planets while wielded by Thor, Mjolnir can warp reality, control storms of staggering intensity, enable him to fly at light speed, teleport, and honestly pretty much anything else. While Mjolnir boosted Thor's incredible strength, it also serves as a conduit, as in extreme circumstances Thor can summon his elemental power without any aid. Thor is so powerful that during the Siege storyline after Norman Osborn and his Dark Avengers almost invaded Asgard, he, well, straight up stopped them. Unfortunately, Sentry swooped in later to topple the city of Asgard, but he was ultimately defeated by none other than Thor again. As the North God of Thunder, Thor has the ability to use different aspects of storms such as lightning, rain, wind, and whatever else as weapons. Not to mention his durability is truly something to behold, as in Thor number 300 he withstood the energy blasts from the Celestials themselves. He's also been able to fight off the Frost Giants for months at a time without needing to even rest or have any sustenance of any kind, in Thor the Trial of Thor number 1. In his warrior mindset state, Thor's strength and stamina can increase exponentially, but it takes possession of him in some sort of way. It's like a blind fury that will attack everyone around him, including his friends and allies. Now truly, there are few mortals who can challenge the Thunder God. Check out his soul story starting with 1950's Venus, number 11. Number 3, the One Below All. Residing in the lowest depths of the underworld known as the Below Place, the One Below All is the dark counterpart of the One Above All. It is the source of the mutagenic third form of gamma energy, which allows it to use gamma mutates to manifest itself whenever it feels it's necessary. The One Below All is actually what gave the Hulk his powers in the first place, as the Gamma Bomb test partially opened the green door that Below was kept behind. Fast forward through some really cool events that you should definitely check out for yourself, and we see the One Below All possess the body of Brian Banner as the Devil Hulk, Walter Longkowski as Sasquatch, and the Absorbing Man, which led to the final battle of the Immortal Hulk arc. Revealing its true form, a giant green cloud of crazy gamma energy, the One Below All torments the Hulk so much that Bruce Banner and the Hulk actually separate. However, Absorbing Man was able to reroute the gamma energy that the demon was using into the Hulk's body, and with one just big old thunderclap, the One Below All was stopped, at least that time anyways. One Below All is just way too strong, and I will be surprised if he ever appears in, well, anything really. I highly doubt we'll see him anytime soon, so check him out in his first appearance in 2018's Immortal Hulk, number 5. Number 2, the One Above All. Now we can't talk about the One Below All and not go over the One Above All. Easily one of the most powerful beings across all comics, the One Above All is the embodiment of unknowable concept of the transcendent other. With limitless power, he's the one who jump-started reality as we know it, and created whatever rules govern the cosmos and the ethereal entities that run them. He can often choose not to interfere in matters, though he rarely reveals himself to individuals. However, a few times that has happened, like with Peter Parker, and even the time he appeared as Jack Kirby to the Fantastic Four. He is the anchor point for all the power and magic that exist in the multiverse. Now it's rumored that the One Above All might even be Stan Lee himself, as he's capable of creating or destroying all reality should he so choose. In Thor Annual number 14, Thor discusses the existence of the One Above All by saying that it's humbling to know that while the Living Tribunal is one of the most powerful beings in all of the universe, the One Above All who created everything must just be greater than all of his creations combined. The One Above All comes to Peter Parker as a beggar to comfort him after the webhead falls into a spell of depression. He doesn't understand why his life just seems like one big tragedy after the next. But the One Above All reminds Peter of all the good that he's done and the people that he's saved. It was a truly touching issue that introduced us to the true god of the Marvel Universe, who gave Peter the advice he needed to live a long and happy life. So check it out for yourself in 2007's Sensational Spider-Man number 40. Number 1, The Presence. Now we talked about Marvel's true god, so let's take a look at DC's answer to that same question. Put simply, the Presence is the fictionalized counterpart to the god of the Abrahamic but mostly Christian religions. It is considered infinite and eternal and second only to the Primal Monitor, which is essentially the writer or the canvas and paper of whatever comic book he's featured in. Ignoring that, the Presence is otherwise absolute in power. While it can still be hurt or killed like most other deities, the Presence will actually come back. This form that you see the Presence in normally is actually one of the many that he's taken throughout the course of history, so let's go over some of the more well-known. The voice form is the disembodied voice of God that spoke to and empowered Jim Corrigan as the Spectre, and it's actually the primal force in charge of the Spectre's powers. This is the most active version of God seen, to the point that it even answers the Spectre's prayers by resurrecting the murdered Justice Society. When the voice uttered the first word, it created the Word, and it was already being traced by Destiny in his book. Now the hand form is, well, a hand that was seen coming out of the nebula at the moment of creation. This is the presence that the rogue guardian Krona saw when he went back to the beginning of time. The hand has been seen again by the Swamp Thing, Deadman, and the Phantom Stranger when heaven was threatened by the return of the original darkness. And finally, the presence is an unseen entity who commences the allegiance of the host of angels. Check out this god in its first appearance in 1940's More Fun Comics, number 52.
Starting off at number 10, Zeus. First appearing in Superman 28 back in 1944, Zeus is a name many would recognize, not just comic book fans. So Zeus is the father of many, including none other than Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, who I'll get to a bit later on in the list. Zeus is one of the gods of Olympus, so he basically possesses unlimited power. He's kind of a big deal in mythology. Kind of. Which one would only expect being the son of Cronus and Rhea. How powerful is Zeus, you ask? Well, for starters, he can manipulate weather, like the weather. Little less known fact about him is he could also shapeshift, resurrect the dead, and create new life. Zeus was referenced in the 2017 Wonder Woman film, obviously, along with other Olympian gods. We catch a look at him in the Justice League movie, and I would love to see more of this guy. I mean, he uses a lightning bolt to separate the 3 mother boxes in the film. I would love to see more of these things that he can do. Like, it's Zeus. Can we just get an entire trilogy? I'll watch it. If you haven't already seen Justice League, you might as well wait for the Snyder Cut at this point. Number 9, Metron. Making his first appearance in New Gods Godhead issue 1 back in 2014, Metron is also referred to as the owner of the Morbius chair. He created the technology known as boom tubes. He also once survived an attack from Darkseid's daughter, and if you're not aware of who Darkseid is, that's why we have part 1, so go on over and check that out as soon as you're done here. Metron, okay, he's considered one of the most intelligent beings in existence, for good reason. This Morbius chair I mentioned, it's a pretty sweet setup. It allows for Metron to travel between any location and timeline in any universe at any time. Batman once had this chair and he still was concerned about street crimes. Classic Batsy. That is until Owlman came in and ruined the day. Number 8, Highfather. Also known as Isaiah the Inheritor, he made his first appearance in Wonder Woman Volume 4, Issue 14. He's the ruler of New Genesis and is a powerful new god who wants to bring peace to the multiverse. And he's also out to destroy his brother and worst enemy, you guessed it, Darkseid, who again is covered in part 1. Just go check it out. Leave this video, go check it out and come back. No hard feelings. Isaiah lives outside of normal time and space as well, even the New 52 universes. So since he got his powers, he actually doesn't age. So that dude's gonna look fresh forever. He can also feel when something isn't right in the universes, especially when it has something to do with his brother Darkseid. He can also get in your head, like literally. He can mentally link himself to you and eventually cause physical damage. That's how powerful he is. And if that's not scary enough, he can take a regular boring human, like myself, and within seconds turn them into a new god just by thinking about it. He even once obtained the Genesis Scepter, channeling the white light of life, giving him access to the power of the life equation, but he ended up destroying it because he felt too much guilt. Too much power? I mean, maybe. We gotta draw the line somewhere. Number 7, Wonder Woman. The daughter of Zeus herself, I only thought it was fitting to put her in this list. We've seen her in movies deflecting bullets, and we're gonna see her ride lightning whenever Wonder Woman 1984 finally gets released. Wear a mask. But just how strong is Diana Prince? The Queen of the Amazons was living a pretty chill life. That is until Steve Trevor, played by the oh-so-fine Chris Pine, ended up crash landing on the island Themyscira. A tournament was held to decide who was going back to Man's Land with Trevor. So Diana thrived and even completed the final task of deflecting a bullet fired from her own mother. Awarded with the lasso of truth and a badass suit of armor, she was on her way to the top in no time. She was donned the name Wonder Woman by the press after she handled some terrorist. It's been handled, son! Using the bracelets of submission, she can deflect bullets. And as the bracelets are made of the 8th metal, which is a pretty strong metal, the lasso of truth is exactly what you think it is. The gods of Olympus gave it to the Amazons and it was their prized relic for a long time. She can actually blind you with this thing while making you spill your deepest, darkest secrets. So you don't want to bump into Diana Prince anytime soon, believe me. Number 6, Lucifer Morningstar. Making his first appearance in Sandman Volume 2, Issue 4, he's a fallen archangel and he actually used to rule hell at one point. That's right, like hell. You know. He was cast out for rebelling against the kingdom of heaven, so after about 10 billion years, give or take, he decided to abandon his lordship over hell. That's a long time, like a long time. During this time, Lucifer had manipulated the demons in hell so that they would go against each other. Like he would just stir shit up, spreading rumors. It was basically a reality show for demons down there. He's like, yo man, Hella told me you couldn't read, is that true? While swirling some wine. I dig it. So eventually he got bored of this and decided it was time to move on. He was getting tired of being treated the same all the time. Everyone thinks he's the guy that purchases and trades souls, which isn't exactly the case. His job description is just to punish whoever ends up down there. And he thought it was quite unfair that he had to rule there forever simply because he rebelled. Like, come on guys, it was one time, relax. So he handed the keys to hell over to 2 angels, Duma and Remiel, and retired to Earth. What a weird retirement. Yep, happy retirement. The subway never runs. You're gonna be late always. See ya. His powers, however, unmatchable. Because he's an archangel, he still retains some of those powers. Like for starters, he can manipulate any external force for any effect he desires. He can create flames with his hands and then travel realm to realm. What a hot high five he would give. He can go to hell, literally, go to hell, and then immediately go to the void, which is a space outside of creation itself. His only weakness, if you want to call it a weakness, is that he can't create something from nothing. Big deal. He even once cast a spell on a door, making it so that if that door was opened, it would unmake all of creation. Not bad. That's, for magic, not bad. I can do the thumb thing, so What's up, Lucifer? Get at me, bro. Number 5, Death. That's right, I said death. She's too powerful not to include. Being born with the universe, in a similar way eternity embodies life and growth, there has to be an equal and opposite, that being death, in which embodies decay and destruction. I like death a lot. The character. I don't walk around with Ouija boards on me. I'm not, not into that. Well, I mean, kind of. We'll talk. Making her first appearance in Captain Marvel issue 26, Death is actually really close with Thanos. I was really hoping to see more of this relationship in the MCU, but I mean, Cate Blanchett playing Hela kind of filled that void for me a bit. That was good fun, she's great. But Death, yes, they're different. Death was intrigued by Thanos from the start. She manifested herself to look like a young girl in his school when he was just a little wee Thanos. Little wee Thane Thanos. She convinced Thanos to kill a whole nest of critters after the same critters allegedly were the cause of a recent cave collapse, killing Thanos' friends. So yeah, she's kind of like the bad cop. There's another character that's in love with Death, and that character happens to be the merc with the mouth, Deadpool. I'll save that for another time. So what can this cosmic level entity do besides whisper bad ideas in your head? Well, every lost soul belongs to her, simply put. She cannot die, obviously, as she's not really alive to begin with. In fact, Thanos and Gamora are the only ones that can actually see death in her true form, except for when you're dying. Then you'll see her for sure. And you don't want to see her. Number 4, Perpetua. Arguably the most feared being in the greater Omniverse, making her debut in Justice League Volume 4, Issue 8, Perpetua created the multiverse, using negative crisis energies, also referred to as the 7 hidden forces of creation. So once it was created, she then made 3 sons to inhabit the multiverse, those being Mar-Novu, Alpheus, and Morbius. The multiverse consists of 3 main realms with different matter. So Mar-Novu got the positive matter realm, Alpheus got the dark matter realm, and Morbius the antimatter realm. Perpetua's role was already filled, being the creator, so now all she has to do was just make sure her children don't die. Infinite power, biofusion, molecular reconstruction, reality alterations, this chick has it all. She even once sent the Justice Society of America back in time. I would be crazy not to have her in this list. You gotta check out more of her. Number 3, Gaia. First appearing in Doctor Strange Volume 2, Issue 6, Gaia uses an unlimited amount of power drawn from the Earth. She's literally Mother Earth. So whenever you hear people say that, now you have a face to put along with it. So before any life on Earth was even created, Gaia is commonly referred to as the caretaker of evolution. She was actually the one who decided for the dinosaurs to become extinct. She's like, yeah, you with the long neck, get out of here. You're a bit too much. Stop eating my trees, plants. Stop eating my shit. Get out of here. Beat it. Thank you, Gaia. Thank you for all those terrifying giant spiders in Australia. Hey, if anyone watches this from Australia, go close your windows right now. I know you forgot to close one and you're gonna thank me later for it. No giant spiders today, sir. So, she can use all of the spiritual energy of every living being on Earth, seeing as she's part of the Earth's life essence. She of course can manipulate weather, so if you're acting like a dick, she can just hurricane your town up for a couple days until you cool off. Using the Allspeak, not the Allspark, don't even think about comparing them, she can speak in every language of the 9 realms. I barely passed grade 9 French, so I mean, it's pretty impressive. Number 2, Surtur. We caught a glimpse of what this guy can do back in Thor Ragnarok, released in 2017, but what else is he able to do? I mean, who is this guy? Originally the ruler of Muspelheim, and as we saw briefly, the destroyer of Asgard. In the comics, Surtur was destined to be part of Ragnarok, all along, using the Bifrost and the Twilight Sword. He's also the mortal enemy of Thor and his father Odin, who I'll get into a bit later on. So how strong is he though? Well, he possesses the power of 1,000 blazing suns. That's right, not just regular suns, blazing suns. What? He's 1,000 feet tall, give or take, and can even change sizes, so it doesn't even matter anyways. He of course has super strength, but here's the best part. Whenever he's reunited with the Eternal Flame, scratch that, whenever he's even close to the Eternal Flame's vicinity, his powers increase drastically. I mean, already this guy's fire powers are so strong, he could alter the Earth's temperature. Super hot fire, Surtur spits that. And finally, number 1, Odin. By Odin's beard! Okay, like I mentioned earlier, of course, Thor's father himself has to be in this list. Also, this list isn't in any particular order, so don't be giving me shit in the comics. I'm just throwing them out there. Odin might be my favorite god on this list, simply because Sir Anthony Hopkins plays him in the MCU. The former king of Asgard himself, Odin, protector of the 9 realms, adoptive father of Loki and father to Thor and Hela, the god of thunder and goddess of death. Even us on Earth consider him the god of wisdom. I mean, Anthony Hopkins. Kinda makes sense. Not gonna argue it. Making his debut in Journey into Mystery number 86, Odin defeated Surtur when he was just a young lad. So his brothers had been killed by the fire beast, and then they gave their powers right to Odin. So from the start, this dude was shredded. He took away Thor's powers 3 times. 3. You think after losing that hammer the second time, you'd be like, alright, fine, I won't start any fights, you win. I wish we saw more of Odin in the MCU. I mean, hopefully we get to see a de-aged version with Anthony Hopkins kicking ass in a prequel, or even a flashback. I would settle for a nice, juicy flashback in Thor Love and Thunder. They're so good at de-aging over there. Besides Peggy Carter, they nail it. CGI mouth, I don't know, didn't work for me.